This video is on question 39 of the 2012 TSA paper, and here we're asked which option can be inferred from the passage. So this is a variant on the question which asks us which option can be drawn as a conclusion from the passage. So this is the passage that we're given. And we're first told that rather than dumping sewage sludge in the North Sea, it's been suggested by people that sewage sludge could be used as a fertilizer on agricultural land. But, says the author, this sludge often contains waste which is contaminated with heavy metals, and these metals can be absorbed by plants. The author gives the example of zinc. There's lots of zinc to be found in this sludge, and this is a problem for crop production, because it will kill plants at concentrations which are too low to harm animals. So you won't tell that your crops are dying until it's too late. And the passage finishes by the author giving another example, in this case cadmium. The author says concentrations of cadmium can be high enough to make plants dangerous as food, without obviously affecting the growth of the plant. So you might have cadmium absorbed in a plant, but you won't know it's been absorbed in a plant, and then that plant can be used as food, which is dangerous for anyone eating that food. So that's the passage that we're given. And what are we dealing here? What are we dealing with here exactly? Well, in the first sentence, we're given a problem, namely whether sewage sludge should be used as fertilizer or whether it should be dumped in the North Sea, as some people are saying. Or rather, it's being dumped in the North Sea already, and some people are suggesting that it should be used as fertilizer. In the second sentence, the author seems to throw doubt on a solution to the issue. They doubt whether sewage sludge could be used as a fertilizer. And the rest of the passage consists of two facts which are used to back up this doubt. So that's our passage. Now we're going to try and grasp the structure of the passage, the structure of what's being said. So here I've tried to lay out the structure of what's being said. At the beginning of the passage, we have the problem laid out, whether sewage sludge should be dumped or whether it should be used as fertilizer. The author then casts doubt on the solution that it should be used as fertilizer and provides two facts or reasons in support of this claim. First, that zinc would harm crops. This is essentially what the third sentence is saying. And second, that cadmium would harm people. This is essentially what the fourth sentence is saying. So what is the passage saying in summary? Well, it's saying this. We have this problem of whether sewage sludge should be dumped or used as fertilizer, and perhaps fertilizer is not the best solution. First, because zinc would harm crops, and second, because cadmium would harm people. And the reason why cadmium would potentially harm people is because it doesn't obviously affect the growth of the plant, so farmers wouldn't necessarily know that their plants have absorbed cadmium. However, these same plants could then be used as food for people to eat. So that's how cadmium could potentially harm people. So now we're going to look at the options and see which one can be inferred from the claims being made here. So here we have our 5 options, and here we have the summary of the passage. So let's take each option in turn to see which one can be inferred from the claims in the passage. So option A says that if cadmium and zinc were removed from the sewage sludge, then the sewage sludge could safely be used as a fertilizer. Now, the author cites cadmium and zinc as examples of dangerous metals. However, they do not rule out, indeed they explicitly say that these are only examples, and so there are probably other dangerous metals in the sludge, which would prevent it from safely being used as a fertilizer, even if cadmium and zinc were removed. So option A doesn't follow from the passage. What about option B? Option B says that the greater risk to health from sewage sludge used as fertilizer would be its contamination with zinc. Well, if we look back to the passage, we can see that the author is saying that zinc would harm crops, whereas cadmium would harm people. So it seems that the greater risk to health from sewage sludge used as fertilizer would be its contamination with cadmium, not zinc. So option B actually seems opposed to what the writer thinks. So it's not going to be something that we can infer from their claims. What about option C? Option C says if the sewage sludge contains cadmium, it's unwise to use it as fertilizer. Well, let's look back at the passage to see if this follows. In the passage, the author says that cadmium would harm people. And even if this is not explicitly said, it's certainly implied, because the author says that cadmium absorbed in plants would make plants dangerous, and that those plants would be used as food. So if cadmium would harm people, it seems to follow that if the sludge contains cadmium, it's unwise to use it as fertilizer. So C looks promising. But let's try and rule out D and E. D says that there's no future in using sewage sludge as fertilizer. Well, this option seems to be a bit too strong. The author is saying it's dangerous because it contains these heavy metals. But there's always the possibility that these metals could be removed in the future, and that therefore sewage sludge could be safely used as a fertilizer in the future. The claims made in the passage don't rule this out. So option D is too strong. What about option E? Option E says that dumping the sewage sludge in the North Sea is safer than using it as a fertilizer. Well, the author notes the danger of using the sludge as a fertilizer, but they do not note how safe or dangerous it is to use the sludge, or rather to dump the sludge in the North Sea. And so we can't compare the safety of these two options from the passage. B talks about something which isn't in the passage and is thus irrelevant. So that leaves option C as the correct option.